How about that? Well, today we are beginning a two-part series on dreams. And if you saw this on social media and you thought we were going to teach you how to interpret your dreams or we were going to tell you what different dreams mean, that's not what we're going to be doing today. One, because I have absolutely no experience in that. And two, because I think out of any of you in the room, I probably have the strangest dreams. They are so vivid and so weird, and I always remember them. Josh never remembers any of his dreams, but I remember every weird dream that I have, and I don't want to know what they mean. I don't want to know if there's any significance, but we thought it would be a fun way to end the year and to begin the new year by talking about our dreams, our goals, the things that we want for our life. And we all love to dream. We do. From a young age, we dream about what our life could be like. We dream about what kind of job we want to have. We dream about the places we could go. Maybe we dream about being rich or powerful or successful. We dream about living a life of importance and significance. We all have a dream job. Mine as a child was to be an attorney. I'm glad that that did not turn out to be my dream job. I think that I like this job a lot better. We have a dream family. Maybe you know how many kids at a young age you thought you wanted. You know what kind of spouse that you want. We have maybe a dream house. This is maybe one of my dream houses, potentially on the screen here. Doubt I'm going to find something like that in Kansas, but I think it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool dream house. We have dream vacations. This is my dream vacation right now. I would love to be anywhere where there's mountains. I would love to just be there and not here and be enjoying some time off in nature. I'd love that. We have dream weddings. Any of you in the room planning a wedding, you have a dream wedding and you have Pinterest boards full of ideas of all the color schemes and the food and the decorations, and it's so fun and awesome. There are also dream teams. Maybe you will recognize the famous dream team. We have lots of dreams throughout our lives, lots of things that we hope for ourselves. And if you grew up watching or reading fairy tales at all, you know that, like Cinderella told you, if you dream hard enough, it will come true. A dream is a wish your heart makes. I will not sing it to you. I will not sing it to you, but life, unfortunately, is not a fairy tale. Do you know that? It's not a fairy tale. Life is real, and so we all have to grapple with this really difficult question. What do we do when our dreams don't come true? What do we do when things do not go according to plan? What do I do when that is never going to be my house? What do we do when maybe sometimes our dreams feel destroyed or damaged or dead? And I think that this is something we can all relate to this year. 2020, throughout this year, has felt like a dream destroyer. It has. There have been canceled plans, lost opportunities, broken relationships. Maybe you lost your job or your job changed. Quarantine, illness, unrest, injustice, and so much loss everywhere you look. It has been a dream killer. There's been so much this year that has been out of our control, and at times it kind of has just felt like a sucker punch right to the soul of who we are. And if we can be honest, and I think we all are this morning, because a lot of you are nodding as I'm saying this. If we can be honest, we have all felt like some of our dreams have had to be set aside. Maybe we've given up some of them. Maybe some of them just feel like they've been taken from us. And today, we're going to have a funeral for our dreams. But we don't want today to be depressing, so we're also going to allow God to fill us with hope to dream again for 2021. Because we don't want to just pass over all the hard things when they happen. We want to acknowledge them, and we want to let Jesus heal us and help us to move forward. And the purpose of today is not to be depressing. It's not. I can tend to be more of a depressing person. I'm a realist. It's easy for me to be kind of negative. But today I want to fill you with hope that no matter what 2020 has looked like for you, no matter what dreams have felt lost or destroyed or damaged, that Jesus is here this morning to give us each a new dream. And so when I think of someone in the Bible who was a dreamer, one man comes to mind, and his name was Joseph. His name was Joseph, and Joseph was someone incredibly special. He was chosen by God, and God gave him some really big and important dreams. He also gave him the ability to interpret dreams. He had two kind of very interesting ways of being blessed with dreams in his life. But for a really long time after God gave him some important dreams, Joseph's life was awful. It was terrible. And so we're going to pick up in Genesis 37 this morning, and we're going to look at the first half of Joseph's life. And it's really long. I want to prep you. It's really long. It's 10 chapters. I'm not going to read 10 chapters to you this morning. We are going to read Genesis 37 almost in entirety because I love the introduction to who Joseph is. And I encourage you then to go and maybe read some of the other chapters later. And Josh will finish the story next week. But here's what we begin to learn about Joseph in verse 2. It says, "This is the account of Jacob and his family." Remember, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is that Jacob. "When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked for half his brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing." Now, what do we learn about Joseph in this opening verse? He's really young. He's 17 years old. Picture just the most obnoxious 17-year-old you probably can, and I think that was Joseph. He's young. He's his father's favorite. His dad loves him. He was born, really special circumstances. And Joseph is also kind of a snitch. He kind of likes to get his brothers in trouble. He is the most real version of a 17-year-old boy that you're probably ever going to find in the scriptures. And so when we continue in verse 3, we learn that Joseph was loved by more than any of Jacob's other children because he had been born to him in his old age. So one day, Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. This is what he said to them. He says, "Listen to this dream. We were all out in the field." Can you just picture him telling his significantly older brothers the story? "We were all out in the field, tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed down to mine." His brothers responded, "So you think you will be our king? Do you actually think you will reign over us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. Soon Joseph had another dream, and he did not learn his lesson the first time. And so he told his brothers again, and he said, "Listen, I have had another dream, you guys. The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed down before me." This time he told the dream to his father as well as his brothers, and his father scolded him. "What kind of dream is that?" he said. "Will your mother and I and your brothers actually bow down before you?" And while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dream could mean. Now, this is where the story starts to kind of take a real turn. It takes its first nosedive, and Joseph is sent to find his brothers who had been out tending the sheep. And this is their response as they see him coming. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. They probably saw his beautiful coat gleaming off the sunlight, the coat that they were all jealous of. And as he approached, they made plans to kill him. "Here comes the dreamer," they said. "Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these wells. We can tell our father a wild animal has eaten him, and then we will see what becomes of his dreams." Insert evil laugh here, right? And you thought you had family issues. This is rough. This is terrible. These are his brothers. They are the people in his family who are supposed to be looking out for him. I don't know about you. I'm the oldest in my family, and I have a sister, and I have a younger brother. And I think Claire and I would both say Michael is the baby, and we would do anything to protect him. If you come at Michael, we will come at you. And this is not how Joseph's brothers feel about him. They do not want to protect him. They want to kill him. And so this is one of the first things that we're going to take away from this morning. And it's a two-part kind of thing here. We want to be careful in life who we share our dreams with. Not every person, I'm sure you've realized this, has your best interest at heart. Not every person is going to encourage you to pursue the things that God has told you to pursue. And if you're not careful, people will destroy your dreams before they ever have a chance to begin. Share your dreams with people who will help you grow, with people who will nurture them, with people who will encourage you to keep going. Maybe don't share with people if you think they're going to work for you someday. That might be a good thing to keep to yourself. Maybe keep some of those things. Mary treasured those things in her heart. Treasure some of the things God tells you in your heart and don't share it out loud. But if somebody ever mocks your dreams, they are too small to be in your circle. They are too small for you to be surrounding yourself with. If it is a dream that God has given you, surround yourself with people who are going to help you and encourage you and push you towards your dreams, not be jealous of them. Joseph, he didn't use wisdom as he shared these dreams with his brothers, but he was 17 years old, and his brothers were grown men. They were grown men. They knew better, and they allowed their jealousy and their annoyance with him to turn to hatred in their hearts, which ultimately led them to want to kill him because they hated him so much. The other thing I think we learn, and it won't be on the screen, I kind of thought of it this morning, is we want to be really careful. This is the flip side. We want to be really careful that we don't ever squash someone else's dream. We want to be careful that in our small way of sometimes looking at the world, and we look at people and we see them for who they are, not for who God has created them to be, and we can easily squash the dreams that God has given them if we're not careful. I remember it was a few years ago, I was at a youth pastor event, and there were a lot of us there, and we were doing introductions, and they asked everyone to go around and say their name and say something you were excited about. And there were lots of new youth pastors. I am now an old youth pastor, which is kind of cool. I am an old youth pastor, and this one new kid, he's probably 21, he introduces himself, he says where he's from, and he says, "This year, I'm going to grow my youth group to 1,000 people." I don't even know if there were 1,000 people in the town he lived in. And all of us in the room went, sure you are. But who knew? Maybe that was really something that God had given to him, and who was I to think any different? And so be careful that you don't squash the dreams of anyone around you, because maybe we don't always know. We don't always know what God has spoken to someone else. So let's pick back up in our story. So Joseph's brothers, they're trying to kill him, but out of all his brothers, he had one good brother. He had one good one, and his name was Reuben. And when Reuben heard of what was going on, this is what he says in verse 21. He says, "Look, let's not kill him. Let's think rationally here." There's always the one rational sibling. It's not me. And he says, "Why should we shed any blood? Let's just throw him into this empty well here in the wilderness. He will die without us laying a hand on him." And Reuben was secretly planning to rescue Joseph and return him to his father. So when Joseph arrived, his brothers, they'd all agreed to Reuben's plan. They were like, "Yeah, that's probably better. We don't want to be murderers. That's probably good." And so they stripped him of his beautiful robe, and they grabbed him and threw him into the well. The well was empty. There was no water in it. And then they all sit down to eat their lunch. What a weird day. You plot to kill your brother. You see him coming. You take his favorite jacket. You throw him in a well, and then you sit down to eat your lunch. That just sounds great, doesn't it? They sit down to eat their lunch, and they see this caravan of camels in the distance coming toward them. It was a group of Ishmaelite trailers taking a load of gum, balm, and aromatic resin down from Gilead to Egypt. Doesn't that sound fun? And so Judah, he's another one of the brothers, he's like, "Look, what will we gain by killing him? We'd have to cover it up. It'd be messy. True crime podcast would come after us. They would figure out we did it. And so instead of hurting him, let's sell him to these traders. Let's profit off of our brother who has annoyed us so much. After all, he is our brother. He is our flesh and blood. We should not kill him, just make money off of him." And so when the Ishmaelites, who were Midianite traders, came by, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the well and sold him for 20 pieces of silver, which was not a lot. The traders then took him to Egypt. Sometime later, Reuben returned to get Joseph out of the well. Reuben was apparently not there for any of this. And when he discovered that Joseph was missing, he tore his clothes in grief. Now, like I told you earlier, the story of Joseph is incredibly long. It's incredibly long and wonderful. It's 10 chapters long. And so I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of the next little bit of Joseph's story. Josh will finish the story next week, which has a really good, happy ending. But today, we're not going to end on such a good note. And so here's what happens. They go back to their dad. They're like, Dad, a wild animal ate our brother. It was the worst. We found his robe. Their dad is devastated. He's destroyed. He's distraught. And Joseph, the whole time, is living in Egypt as a slave. And God, even though he was in this terrible situation, God gives him favor with whatever he does. And people noticed how hard he worked. They noticed there was something different about him. And so he gets promoted to the head of a man named Potiphar's house. And Potiphar was one of the top officials in Egypt. And then the next thing we find out about Joseph is he's favored by God. He's a hard worker. Things look like they're starting to kind of go back up. And then the Bible tells us that he was very handsome. And you're like, that seems like that's not a dip. But it turned into a dip because Potiphar's wife took notice of him. And she took notice of him not for his work ethic, but for how he looked. And so she came on to him, and he was like, no, I don't want to. And she was very, very upset by that. So she makes up this whole story about him and has him thrown into prison. And so there's Joseph, again, thrown into a place where he did not belong. And then Joseph gets put in charge of the prison. So he's in prison. He gets put in charge of the prison. In every situation, he's able to be promoted. And it's discovered among all the inmates that he has this gift for interpreting dreams. And there were 2 different people in there with him who had these really wild dreams. And he interprets their dreams. And one of them, his dream meant he was going to get out of prison and be restored and be able to go back and work for the Pharaoh. And it comes true. And Joseph says to him, he's like, remember me, tell the Pharaoh about me, tell the Pharaoh what has happened, tell him I don't deserve to be in here. And the guy is like, yeah, no problem. But then he forgets about Joseph the minute he gets out. He forgets completely about him. And then 2 years pass before anything else happens. 2 years. And this is where we're going to stop for today. It's going to be kind of a cliffhanger for today. Joseph has been in a pit. He's now in a prison, and he feels forgotten. He feels completely forgotten. And this is the second thing that we're going to learn. The second thing we learn today is that we can always trust God's timing. We can always trust his timing. And if we're honest, there's a lot of times in our life where we feel like we are not achieving our dreams fast enough. We look around, especially on social media, and we see other people with the house we want. We see other people with the family we want. We see other people done with school, and we would give anything to be done with school. We see people doing all these different things that we wish that we had. And it makes our accomplishments and our dreams maybe feel really small and insignificant. We think that we should be able to move through life quickly and with ease, but often that's not the case. It's just not. Life is sometimes really hard and tough. And thankfully for all of us this year, it's been hard and tough for all of us. We can all say that. It has been hard and tough. And sometimes waiting for the things that you know God has for you, waiting for the things that God has called you to, the wait can be unbearable. It can be long. Sometimes, like in Joseph's case, the wait seems really long. It seems unfair. It seems wrong. But God's timing can be trusted because he can be trusted. And I will never understand why things don't go the way that I think that they should. I will never get it. But I'm honestly so glad that they don't. I'm honestly so glad that some of my dreams did not come true and that the dreams that God had for me did. And sometimes in life, we will go through hardship. We will experience loss and pain and things that are unfair, and it will seem like our dreams are lost forever. But God always has a plan. He always has a plan. And the thing I find most interesting as we read through these 10 chapters about Joseph's life is this verse. And it pops up twice during the 2 most difficult moments of Joseph's life. First, when he's sold into slavery, and then when he's thrown into prison. It says, the Lord was with him. The Lord was with him. Look, this morning, if the Lord is with you, you can trust his timing. Whether Joseph realized it or not, from the beginning of his story to the end, God was with him, and God was orchestrating every single part of the story, even the uncomfortable parts. God was placing and positioning Joseph exactly where he wanted him to be. And it was not always where Joseph wanted to be. And in life, we all have moments like that where we go, this is not where I want to be. But can we trust that God is with us? Jacob probably never dreamed as a child of being at the bottom of a well, of being sold into slavery, or being thrown into a prison. But God was with him, and Joseph was never out of place once. God has a purpose at the bottom of every pit. God is faithful to us, even in the darkest prison cells. So number 3 this morning, this is the last takeaway from this first part of Joseph's story. Number 3, don't give up on the most important dream. Don't give up on the most important dream. And this is the most important dream for those of us who claim to follow Jesus. That we love God with everything that we have, with all of us, with our heart, our mind, our soul, everything within our being. And that we love other people really well, whatever that looks like. Whether it's in a pit or in a prison, whether it's in a job that we hate, whether it's in a messed up family situation, that we can say, I loved God with everything I had, and I gave everything I could to the people around me. These are the 2 greatest commandments in the Bible, to serve God and to serve those around us. And this is what Joseph does throughout his life. It's what he does in every single situation that he's in. He works hard, he does his best. And at times it sure felt like his best wasn't enough, but it was in the end. Can we be faithful to just serve wherever we are, whatever it looks like? And people, they took a lot from Joseph. His brothers took his coat. His brothers took his freedom. The people who he then was working for, I'm sure, took his dignity. He lost his family. But no one could take God from him. No one could take the ultimate dream from him, to love God and to love others. And no one can take it from you either. There's a lot of things this year that have been taken from us that have been out of our control, but no one can take God from you. Maybe you feel really tired and worn out right now. Maybe you've stopped dreaming God-sized dreams because it's just been so discouraging to see them be canceled. It's been discouraging. But see, this kind of dream, this most important dream, is something that we can always be in control of. It is. It's something no one can steal from you, no matter how hard they try. And God wants you in life to have other dreams, to have goals. He wants you to have the best life possible. But He wants us to keep His dream first. He wants us to keep Him first. And when we keep God first, we can start to dream again, even when our plans get changed, even when everything feels hard. When we keep Him first, we begin to heal. When we feel broken, when we keep Him first, God can use us for His glory, whether we're in a prison or in a palace. And that really is the ultimate dream. So today, here's what I want you to hear. Don't give up. Don't give up on your dream. Don't let 2020 crush your spirit. Don't let other people tell you to stop pursuing the things that you know God has called you to. No one can take God away from you. And no one can stop you from using your talents, from loving and helping others. People can try, but they will not succeed. For me, my dream for 2021 is really simple. Every year I try to come up with different goals. I make a list of books that I want to read, things that I want to do. And this year I don't have any of that. Not because I don't think those things are good. Those things are really good. But this is my simple dream for 2021. I want to love God with everything that I have. I want to trust Him and walk in a close relationship and friendship with Him. And I want to keep loving the people around me the best that I can. I want to preach Jesus in word and deed better than I've ever done before. And if Joseph can survive 13 years of intense discouragement, that's how long he spends from the time he's sold till the time everything really turns around. 13 years. 13 years. I can survive 2020. I can survive 2021. I can survive 2022. I can survive whatever the world is going to throw at me because I know that God is with me. One of the verses that I've loved during 2020 has been this, and I think I've used it in multiple sermons this year. It's Galatians 6:9. So let's not get tired in doing what's good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we do not give up. Don't stop dreaming. Don't give up. Surround yourself with people who are going to push you and encourage you toward the ultimate finish line. Trust God's timing. Remain faithful. Use whatever God has given you wherever you are, especially if you don't want to be there. Especially if you don't want to be there. And remember that no one can take God's dream from you. People can take a lot from you, but no one can steal your calling. And isn't it neat that we all have the same calling, to love God and to love others? Every single one of us. Keep walking in it. 2020 has been a real pit. It has stunk. But 2021 can be the turning point if we're ready. Not because everything magically becomes great when the clock hits midnight, but because we can have a new attitude, a new heart, and a new perspective. We can have more of Jesus to help us face whatever comes next. So Lord, this morning, God, we surrender everything that's happened this year. All the heaviness, all of the junk, all of the loss, all of the pain. God, we feel it. But the thing that I want to feel more this morning is your presence. I want to feel more of your love, more of your encouragement, more of, like we were singing earlier this morning, your Spirit helping me. God, we are nothing without you. When we try to do things in our own strength, we will fall short every single time. God, forgive us for trying to do it on our own. Lord, would you just stir up some hope inside each of us this morning? Not just that 2021 could be different, but that tomorrow could be different. We don't have to wait for the new year. Tomorrow could be different. Today, we could be different. And all we have to do is to call on you. That's it. And just like you were with Joseph in the darkest moments of his life and you gave him favor, you want to do the same for us. You want to be close, you want to be near, and you want to help us to begin to dream again. God, help us to keep the most important dream at the forefront of everything that we do, that we would never lose sight of you. We would never lose sight of what you've called us to do. The situations may change, but God, our calling does not. You are so faithful and so good. God, as we close with this last song this morning, this is our last time to sing together for 2020. Would we sing with everything that we have? Would we worship with everything that we have at the feet of the God who is so good to us? Lord, if there's anyone in this room who they're looking for a fresh start this morning, God, would you give it to them? Would you give them hope? Lord, we know that the Bible tells us all we have to do is to call on you. All we have to do is to speak your name, to believe in who you are, and we can be forgiven and be made new. That's it. It's so simple. We don't have to clean ourselves up to come to you. You just take us as we are and you make us new instantly. Lord, for all of us this morning, maybe that's our prayer. God, help us to reset for 2021. Would you make us new? Would you forgive us? Would you help us? Lord, we thank you and we love you. We love you. We are so grateful this morning. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.